Hello, this is Phil Jones again with another review for you. And this is from Chapter 5 and a pretty different concept than the way we normally think of something in English. But if you think about reflexive verbs and reflexive pronouns, if you will think about something that you do to yourself or something that he does to himself or she does to herself, it's going to help you at least make some connections. Now, there's some pretty significant differences other than thinking about himself and herself, but there is at least a connection. So at this point, if you haven't read over page 140, I encourage you to do so with those couple of thoughts in mind, and then come back to me as I attempt to explain perhaps in a different way, perhaps in different words than you saw in the book. Okay, so I hope you read that and you're back again now. And again, thinking about reflexive, that something reflects back to the subject. So in most cases, the subject and the recipient are two different things, two different people. So I pick up the book. I'm the subject, the book is the recipient. Two completely different entities. In the case of reflexive, the subject and the recipient are both the same. Okay? So even if the recipient happens to be a person's body part. So for example, Juan combs his hair. Okay? Now you say, well, hair and Juan, that's two different. Well, yes it is, but hair belongs to Juan. So you use a reflexive verb in Spanish. Juan se peina. Okay? Before moving on, let me just scroll down and ask you to take a look at the chart. And I want you to be able to identify and relate between the reflexive pronouns. Remember, a pronoun is a word that replaces a noun. In Spanish, if you remember the verb gustar, it has some object pronouns, and there are some strong similarities except for the se. So if that'll help you make some connections, then there's some connections except for the se where the le and the les were. So, yo, the reflexive pronoun for that would be me, tú, te, él, ella, usted, se. Nosotros, nos, vosotros, os, ellos, ellos, ustedes, se. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, se has lots and lots of possibilities, and you're absolutely right, it does. You have to be able to explain within the context what se is talking about. And that's pretty easy to do. If you think about how we did this with the verb gustar, sometimes we had to spell out who the le was. In Spanish, with the reflexive verbs, you do something very, very similar. Okay? So with that said, let me scroll back up again and think about, okay, we've gone from reflexive pronouns, but then we need something to make those reflexive pronouns stick together with whatever action is, and that's where the verbs come in. Fortunately, reflexive verbs are conjugated exactly, absolutely no differently than a normal verb. If it is an ER verb, an AR verb, or an IR verb, it conjugates the same way. If it happens to be a stem change verb, it conjugates exactly the same way. There are some very, very common reflexive verbs, and you can find those on page 140. Okay? So some verbs just naturally lend themselves to being reflexive verbs. And I encourage you, if you have not done so, commit those to memory, because that's going to be a real positive for you as you move forward into Spanish 2 and as you take the test. All right? So, common reflexive verbs, page 140. Those are going to help you. All right? So, thinking about the placement of the pronouns, this can be a little bit confusing sometimes, and you'll notice something that I put there. It is always safe to place it before, and I'm going to write in the word conjugated verb. Okay? You can always put it there. And I've given you 4 different examples, actually 5 different examples, showing the flexibility that you have in Spanish. So, Juan combs his hair at 8 o'clock. Juan se peina a las 8. Immediately before the conjugated verb. Okay, taking it to the future tense. He's going to comb his hair at 8 o'clock. Juan se va a peinar a las 8. Safe before the first conjugated verb, va. Okay. Or I could attach it to the end of the infinitive. Juan va a peinarse a las 8. And if I wanted to say, remember back to where we got to present progressive tense, he is combing his hair, like right now. Juan se está peinando, immediately before the conjugated verb. Or I can put Juan está peinándose. Notice I had to put an accent over the A to give it the right sound. Either way would work with that. Now I want to stop just a second and remove Juan from the picture. And if I'm going to say, I comb my hair, the se goes away and it becomes me. So it would be me peino a las 8. Me voy a peinar a las 8. Or voy a peinarme a las 8. That would correspond with this one. And if I wanted to say I am combing my hair, me estoy peinando. Or I could say estoy peinándome. All right? If I wanted to use the nosotros form, I use the same way. Nosotros nos peinamos a las 8. Nos vamos a peinar. So that you can kind of see how those work. Also, finally, in the book, you will see that it talks about sometimes verbs can work both ways. So if the recipient is actually yourself, which reflexive verbs are, the subject and the recipient are the same, it's I wake myself up or I get myself up at 8 o'clock. Levantarse is typically a reflexive verb, but sometimes it isn't. Me levanto a las 8. Nos levantamos a las 8. If I want to talk about my brothers, I want to get my brothers up. Notice that the recipient has now changed. I'm the subject. I wake them up. My brothers are the recipients. Levanto a mis hermanos a las 8. Then it doesn't become, or it is not a reflexive verb. All right? We've gone over the reflexive pronouns. Let's look at the verb peinarse. Okay? I comb my hair. Me peino. And hair is sort of built into the Spanish verb. Peinarse, you comb your hair. Okay? Tú te peinas. And I don't even have to put the tú there. I could simply put te peinas. Se peina. Or él se peina. Ella se peina. Usted se peina. Okay? Nosotros nos peinamos. Or I could say nos peinamos. I know what that is. Os peináis. Se peinan. They comb their hair. Ellos se peinan. Ellas se peinan. If I need to specify and define who the se is, which is probably important the first time that you do this. All right, this is what I want to do. I want to do a study Spanish. I also want to point out to you before I do that, you can go to Kia. There's a good exercise there. The Tontito Frito at YouTube does a really, really good explanation. But let's take a moment to do just a little bit of additional practice with StudySpanish.com. Okay, let me move my board just a little bit. All right. And this takes both sides, both as the doer, the subject being the recipient, but also something else the recipient. So, I wash the car. Car is not the same as I, so it's lavo el auto. Okay? Notice there is no reflection about that. I take a bath, or I give myself a bath. So I am now the recipient. Me baño. And I encourage you, pause me, try to process these yourself. Juan goes to bed at 10 in the evening. Okay? He puts himself to bed. He is the recipient. Se acuesta. Maria puts the baby to bed at 7 in the evening. It is no longer reflexive. Something else is the doer. I wake up each morning at 6, or I wake up at 6 in the morning. Me despierto. She wakes the child up at 9 in the morning. Despierta a su niño. Two different people. The recipient is no longer the doer. You take a shower. Tú te duchas. Maria washes her hair. Se. And no, we've just defined, if I simply said se lava el pelo, We don't know who the se is, but now because we said María se lava el pelo, we know who it is. You all wake up. Ustedes se despiertan. Again, ustedes define se. We brush our teeth. Nos cepillamos los dientes. She gets dressed. Se viste. They sit down. Se sienten. I'm worried about you. Okay, now this is a little bit different, but if you'll think about it, I'm worried. So it is truly, it truly is reflexive, and then about you is something else. So I'm worried, that's myself. And I know that's a little bit of a different angle than we've taken, but trust me, this one is reflexive. Okay, María se lava el pelo. We take a shower. Duchamos. Nos duchamos. They brush their teeth. Se cepillan los dientes. And again, normal conjugations. Normal conjugations. Me afeito las piernas. The boys fall asleep. And this is an O to UE stem change verb. Los niños se duermen. The young ladies get dressed. This is an E to an I stem change verb. Las señoritas se visten. And we sit down. This is E to IE. However, in the nosotros form, as you know, it does not change. It's not within that shoe. So it's sentamos. Nos sentamos. And if we got them all right, hopefully we did, we'll get 100%, and we did. So congratulations to you if you got all those right. And again, there's your additional resources if you need to see those. I encourage you if you feel like you need some more practice. Hope this has helped, and we will see you in the next lesson.